Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Pursuing Horizons podcast. Today, we are speaking with Cody Gonek, and Cody is the owner of The Vault in Edmonton. And he's actually kind of a returning guest, sort of. We did a podcast on the Flex Cortex podcast, but a first time on this pod. So thank you, Cody, for making the time to come on today.
Hey, thanks for having me, gents. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we'll do a little bit of an origin story. We'll get into like what got you into coaching, your journey and your process of like going from commercial through to now owning your own space. And then we'll talk about the new one a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start off from the beginning, I guess. Back probably when I was 18, I was extremely overweight, about 300 pounds, and I just kind of needed to make a change. So, made a change, did it on my own in the beginning. So, to all those people who are trying to do it on their own, hire a professional. You'll get a lot further, a lot quicker, and safer. So, I lost about 100 pounds literally just doing cardio. And obviously, the things that we know now, I regret doing that. But either way, had the weight loss, got into fitness. Then I did hire my first coach. We started our bodybuilding prep for about a year and a half. Did my first two bodybuilding shows and fell in love with fitness. Now, in the meantime, I was still working construction full time for my family's construction business. So the days were still long and a different type of work than I'm doing now. I have my management degree as well, as I was planning to use that within the business. But construction wasn't my passion. It's my family's passion, and they do a very good job at it. But for me, the 9 to 5, and just the construction itself, it wasn't for me. So I actually decided to quit. It was a big eye opener just due to truly kind of being on my own and not having the support system of what the company was offering, a free truck, a gas card, and like you had everything covered. And all of a sudden, boom, you're on your own and no job. So I actually moved to Vancouver. I took BCPTI there and took about 3 months, got my course, started at Steve Nash, which is now Fitness World. But I started there as a trainer for about a year. And I didn't quite have the drive, and it caught up to me. And I had to move back home because Vancouver is very expensive. I really didn't hustle to get clients. And that was the biggest eye opener for me. I had to move back home. I had to go back to construction, save up some money. And then I just fell out of a groove again and said, no, you know what? I can't do this anymore. Inside, I know I have an entrepreneurial drive like my family does, but I need to go the direction that I'm passionate about. Well, I joined on at Evolve. Or sorry, no, I'm fast tracking a bit. I actually met Greg Merritt. We all know. Still a great guy, still chat with him all the time. We were at a wedding. I was like, Greg, I have my management degree. I am big into fitness. Do you have a management role? Got hired on as the assistant fitness manager at the Good Life Brewery downtown. I was there for about a year and a half, and my main focus there was sales. I set records in the region. I set records in Alberta for personal training sales to sell for everybody. And I did really have a great time there until I really started seeing what I could do more and how I could offer that more to not only individuals, but trainers as well. So I did actually quit on the spot. I'm the kind of guy when I get something in my mind, I'm all in. And I don't stop until I achieve it. There's lots of roadblocks all the time. So I was there with no job, no income, literally maybe $1,000 to live off of. And I started Gonek Fitness. So Evolve Downtown was my first role there. Started there. I had one client, my mother-in-law. And from there, I just had to really learn how to navigate social media, how to network, how to talk to people. And that was the hardest part in the beginning. Ended up growing the business there, and then COVID hit. And that threw a wrench into everyone, as you guys know, being trainers, what that did to the industry. So I kept things going, actually. We were in a duplex at that time. So I bought a squat rack, 5 to 50 pound dumbbells, And I had about 10 clients at that time. And I just said, hey guys, let's just keep training. And all of them were actually, most of them were doctors and stuff like that. And they're like, yes, like honestly, just more for mental sake. I actually built myself up to 30 clients just in my small little garage. I added equipment pieces as I went. And then the condo board filed a cease and assist because I was running a business out of my garage. So they gave me 1 month to vacate it. So I actually found a location just off of 156th here. It was about 1,000 square feet. Signed the lease, moved all my equipment over there. And then there was a life fitness package from a guy in Spruce Grove. He had 10 pieces. I'm sure people have seen my video where they're just white pieces of equipment. I bought all of those from him. Started that in that little facility. I grew up to about 60 one-on-one clients. I probably have 25 a day. And I was just starting to become capped. I had no more hours in the day, and I hit a ceiling. I truly did. I didn't have a life because I was just all work. I was there every day, all day long. And that's when I came up with the idea of the vault. I said, you know what? I said, there is no gym. This was 4 years ago now, that has a facility with top tier equipment and that trainers can grow their business in a community where they're supported. And as well, I did go the route of non-membership based because I wasn't as revenue driven, at that time because I had such a large client base. So I said, I'm going to implement this gym where the clients don't have to pay any fees. They just pay the trainer. The trainer, as contractors, pay their rent. So I found this space. It was actually 360 Wellness. I did a full TI demo on it in about 3 or 4 months and was off and running with only one trainer. Damon, still here, was my first trainer. And I had all these overhead costs from the new equipment order and rent and the TI. And I didn't have a choice, had to hustle. And 4 years later, we are kind of where we're at, transitioning now into a fully public facility with the best team that we've ever had. We got 27 trainers and growing, and a community that people are truly starting to see how great it is here.
Cody, that's an incredibly admirable story, man. I on the lighter side of things, and I can't remember if we said anything at the start, but for anyone listening right now, Bryce and I are currently trainers at the Vault as well. So we have front row tickets
Right.
to Cody's workouts all the time. And I just want to go back to, I'm just still blown away by you starting as a cardio guy for that the first 100 pounds. And just to start on the lighter side of things here, like that is, it's so just seeing your workouts every day, right? Can we just quickly talk about,
Of
and
course.
I'm not trying to make light of that time at all, but what that cardio looked like, and what was getting on a more serious side of things now. What was what was the deciding factor that made you want to start moving in a different direction with your lifestyle?
I had a custom grad suit fitting for my grade 12 grad at Harry Rosen, and I couldn't fit into anything off the rack. And even getting custom fitting was tough. And it's funny because now today I still can't buy anything off the rack, but it's a total different body composition.
Yeah.
But that woke me up. And it was just a matter of feeling discomfort when I was there, not being able to fit anything. And I still have that suit to this day. I could fit the jacket upper body wise, but the pants are parachute pants. But that was the switch, was my
Yeah.
grad.
Yeah.
That was the switch. And then I just kind of, as much as we hate the term, Googled how to lose weight. I did it.
Yeah.
And I just started doing cardio and basically cutting out anything nutritionally valuable to what we need to grow in fitness. So basically ate lettuce and lost the weight. And I wish I knew what I did now, but either way, that was the main switch was back to, in my grade 12 grad in 2010.
And I mean, it got you to this point. So at the end of the day, it was a step in the right direction, right? And that's something that I feel like, and a lot of people we talk to, it's you don't know that full picture, but you want to attain this goal, and you just see that end vision. And as much as I always say, like that's a really really good thing to have like 100% of your vision and see it all the time and feel it and act like you're already in that. it's those small little steps you take, and it like literally just get it. My first little, I wanted to get jacked, and I went on a treadmill for like 6 months. That's how I decided to do it. I didn't know, but that step then revealed the next step and revealed the next step. Now, going to Steve Nash, you mentioned something there that really hit home with me, and it was that you just didn't feel like you had the right level of motivation at that time for what was happening. I'd love to chat more about that.
Honestly, it's funny now looking back because even new trainers that come on board here, it was a big. I don't want to say the word I felt fake, but I felt like what's the word I'm looking for?
Imposter syndrome kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did one bodybuilding show, and now I'm trying to pursue an avenue where people are paying a lot of money to come to me for knowledge that I didn't have in that start in that first year. I just did a bodybuilding show. I knew how to do hypertrophy training, and I had a diet that was made for myself, not these individual clients. And I I sat back on a bunch of savings I had from working construction, so I wasn't worried financially at the time. But that all went in 1 year. It was gone, and it woke me up because I was like, "Look, like if this is your passion, excuse my French, but wake the fuck up and put the work in." And at that point, I didn't have a choice. I had to move back home, but I still knew when I moved back home, I wanted to pursue it again. I just needed to ground my feet, make an income with construction again. I did it for about 6 months, and I had to move back home as well, in my parents' place. And then I said, okay, now it's time to transition. And it was at a wedding I met Greg, and ever since then, I haven't looked back.
Yeah. So randomly at a wedding, you met Greg.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It
that's
was
awesome.
through the St. Albert group. It was just a small knit community, and he was there, and this was the time, and then drinks were flowing, and I just
Yeah.
talking to him, and the next day I had the interview, and the rest is history for the good life part.
That's amazing. And that's kind of that exact example of like, again, the little steps start to present
Exactly.
themselves of where to go. Now, another thing too that really like I can see with everything is that feeling of when you knew that like the family business and leaving that, like that, there's got to be like crazy pressure on that. And that's got to be something that maybe started out as a little feeling and just built and built and built. And I'd love to talk about kind of like internally what that felt like. Maybe how did you know it was time to move on? Because I know a lot of people we talk to have made that decision to follow their dreams as opposed to exist in something that can be very, very safe.
Yeah.
So I'd love to just discuss more about that.
In regards to the safe part, it depends on the person, in my opinion, on if they. Lots of people are totally fine with the 9 to 5, collect a paycheck, move on. For me, growing up in a family who is purely entrepreneurial, but not being passionate about that career path is what made me be like, okay, I want to be entrepreneurial, but not here. And I did know that it was going to affect family dynamic. It has to this day, because I was the only one with a degree, but my entire family is in the business, and I mean, out of 200 employees, probably 30% are family. And it's a very successful business, and it created a lot of tension in those beginning years, and that was something. To this day, my work ethic is driven to show my family that as much as I still love them and they support me where they can, um, that I could do it outside of the construction company. And that's still to this day, and especially going into this new venture, as nervous as I am and as many obstacles as I know this new one is going to create, that has always been my drive. And I think for people wanting to transition to following their passion, even if their passion is a 9 to 5 job, find something that can drive you. And if you find something that can drive you and ignite that flame, so call it, I think it surprises people on what they're able to do.
Absolutely.
I had a question about something you mentioned earlier because you talked about how there was like that switch flipped for you when you're like, hey, if I need to like get my shit together here and like make a career of this, right? What did you start doing to create some momentum? Because like obviously we can be in a pretty negative spiral and we could be almost seeing like a negative momentum compound, right? How did you start like trying to get some positive momentum rolling to the point where you're like, we're seeing growth?
Honestly, I still kind of have this persona today when I look at things is no matter what, things are going to get thrown at you that are can negatively affect you and positively affect you. So for me, it was when things come my way that I can't control and can impact in a negative way, take it, learn from it, adapt, and move on. And so when I had to make that transition, there was still, like you said, that beginning period is always the hardest. And for me, it was just kind of keeping my head down and always trying to, whether something was thrown at me and a speed bump came up, I would have to find a way to adapt and react and move forward. Now, I could have let these things affected me and taken them and just stayed in a neutral position and probably still be at good life. But for me, the switch was just I had an end vision of where I wanted to go. There's obviously stepping stones. You can't just go from A to Z. But it was just knowing that things are never easy. You guys know how it is, running a business. You are always thrown with wrenches and you just have to deal with them. And for me, it was accepting that it's not all rainbows and butterflies. And you have to understand that you're going to have more hard days than good days. But either way, you just have to keep moving forward. And in the beginning, I just tried to have that mindset as much as I could, as many more hard days as there were easy days. That's what got me to the point where once I really started getting confident with presenting in front of people and selling those packages, that after I had those first 10 to 20 sales under me, it was like, okay, like I can do this. And that's kind of what was the biggest switch for me.
Yeah. And when we're talking about, dreams and chasing our dreams, it always is, the hardest part is always that first part. And I know for me, mornings used to be the hardest part of my life, which is why I would like to talk to you guys about today's podcast sponsor, Magic Mind. This stuff is absolutely incredible. Your morning routine, we're not here to tell you to not drink coffee. This stuff Bryce and I have been taking, it works alongside your coffee. Think of it as a mental performance shot. It's a quick little down the hatch, sip your coffee so you still get that nice like morning routine built. We have 100% safe back doctor results from this, and it's just an overall very, very good company. These guys are donating 5 cents of every bottle sold to mental health companies, and they are carbon neutral. And I believe we were reading recently that the mushrooms they're using in it are from Venice, California, not Italy. They use really cool stuff, which is like, even the nano capsule technology they're using is a slow release. A faster release. So it's in your system fast, and it's a slow acting kind of like release caffeine, which means we're not going to get all buzzy. As someone who everybody on this podcast can vouch drinks a lot of caffeine here, it's nice to not have that crash after. So we want to also give you guys something here too. If you head over to magicmind.com and use /PH50 as your code, you will be able to get up to 50% on your subscription to Magic Mind, or 20% at point of sale as a one-time purchase. But I can't say enough about it. Again, if you need proof, Bryce ran the Spartan race in this a couple of weeks ago, took a Magic Mind, and he ran it in women's clothes. So if that doesn't sell it, I don't know what it does. So
there has to be a correlation.
There has to be a correlation. That's how much this guy's confidence went up. So head over to magicmind.com /PH50 to grab yours. Thanks, guys. Man, now off that, I want to go back to that decision to build that company and oh my gosh, the safety net is gone, and taking that step on your own. It sounds like, and I don't want to jump to conclusions here, but the skill of being able to take these things that come at you in stride and overcome them wasn't always there, and it's something that you had to kind of work to get. I'd love to chat more about that.
Yeah, no, for me, it was because, right out of high school, I just went with the family business, and, being a laborer at that time, you don't really have to deal with tasks like that. For me, it was metal capping. You have your job, as much capping you can put on, and then your day is done. Where, let's say, a project manager in construction, they're the ones who are going to have to deal with all these roadblocks, schedule delays, construction delays, dealing with different contractors. I never had to really deal with that. It was show up at 7, you're done at 5, your biweekly paycheck is here, and that was kind of it. Obviously, the goal was for me with my degree to go into project management, but I never really had to deal with anything in regards to acting upon issues that came about in business. And I had to learn that very fast because when it was separated from construction going into the entrepreneurial side, and you're looking at your bank account and like, okay, I don't really have a choice here. And for me, that's kind of where it started. It took time, but it that is where I had that wake up call on how to make that switch to be like, okay, like I'm gonna have to figure this out on my own. And it's not gonna happen overnight, but I just have to. My biggest lessons in anything I've done is learn from my failures or mistakes. And that's just being straight up honest. And I've had a lot of mistakes. And I'm still only 32 and I know I'm going to have a lot more. But the more that I can learn from them, the better I know one way in business, two on how to deal with people. Because that's the biggest thing is everyone has different personalities. Everyone has different ways they communicate and talk about things. That's the biggest thing I've learned is how to deal with certain situations in certain circumstances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's something they don't teach in school that they should be teaching is interpersonal skills. And
Well,
it's
and
gotten
that
away with a
ties back
lot, you know.
to, you look at, I'm sure all of us had those guys in high school and girls in high school that were always the smartest and
Yeah.
had the highest grades, but it's ones who were, mid grade, but knew how to communicate
Hmm.
that now are more successful. There's obviously still some that have gone and been
Yeah.
successful, but most of the people that are successful in an entrepreneurial aspect, their biggest trait is how to communicate.
Yeah.
And it's usually those extremely smart people who are introverted that end up working for the people who really understand how to communicate because some of these people who are just so smart and brilliant are in a tunnel vision in one mode where, guys, like the two of you know how to talk to people and communicate. That goes a lot further, not
Yeah.
just in business, but in life.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember talking to someone, I can't use their name, but they were from the university here in Alberta, and they were basically talking about the Alberta curriculum, basically essentially being designed to just create laborers. And it's cool. Like you need to know these basic understandings, but now I feel like as we move on in society, we're realizing like there is so much more to it. And sure, those people go where I was never, there was never a time in my life where I was at the top of my class, but I loved that middle spot because I knew I could make somebody laugh, and I leaned into it very, very hard, and it's served me a lot. But I wish they talked about that more. Like, and that's why I think it's important that we work in like groups and communities because you have to learn how to work
Huge.
together. Yeah, and we all worked for the gyms
For the
where we
gym.
didn't get to like pick who was around us all the time. And on that note, Cody, you've seen a lot of trainers now, a lot of people that have taken that jump to go private and ones that have washed out. What's some of the biggest things you see for, let's say, for the industry people that are listening right now, the biggest traits you see in what is successful coaches as opposed to someone that maybe just doesn't, I don't want to say doesn't have what it takes, but just needs a little more to get where they want to go?
Honestly, if I could pick one word, it's confidence. It is confidence, and it is kind of stepping back to where I was, not feeling like you're faking it until you make it. You have to be confident from the start. It's not that the start is going to be easier, but I think out of trainers, especially that I've seen here, even trainers, within the city, when we all start, not one of us has all the knowledge that we do now. And even as we continue, there's still more things we need to learn. But if you can have confidence, communicate with the people that you're in front of, that's how you can build a business and a brand. Um, I know one guy always stands out to me that, worked for me at Good Life is still a trainer, is still a very successful trainer. In the beginning, knew truly nothing in regards to how to train clients. But let me tell you, he was the most confident man I ever met to this day, and he could talk your ear off. And I
Mhm.
think, Bryce, you probably know who I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And he is a great guy. Now he's obviously gained more knowledge, but that guy had 180 hours a month. And it was because people just wanted to be around him and learn from him. They didn't care he wasn't the most knowledgeable trainer.
Hmm.
For especially newer trainers, it is building that confidence in the beginning and asking for help. That's another huge one, especially I can't speak for other gyms, um, but knowing what we have here in terms of support systems, not just for me, more so from all of you guys as trainers, is just be like, hey, Bryce or Rob, like, what did you do when you started? That helps people a lot. And it's if they don't ask that, I find that's where the trainers who do wash out is ones that one we don't see in the gym, two you don't really hear from, and it kind of correlates on where they end up transitioning to.
Yeah. There's almost like sometimes a sense of entitlement at the start too when they first jump, and that I've seen a couple times too, that like, and I've fallen for all these too. I'm not trying to talk on my high horse here. As somebody's like restarted their business so many times, I have fallen for all these traps as well. And I think another cool little note for people listening is like the whole reason this show exists is because of the community that we do have at the Vault. Like I've been in this industry about 15 years. I've never met such a group of people that I enjoy. There's probably no other gym that people just hang out at when they don't have clients, you know?
And I
Like
love
there's
it.
yeah, it's true though. Like this exists because of that, and I think that's a really cool thing. And again, that is built off that one decision to get some cardio in, you know, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
crazy
it's
what it leads
all
to.
playing
That
cardio.
yeah, I know it's that ripple effect. I know for me,
Yeah.
like I remember we were in, and for those listening, just back in the boy band days, we were in Pittsburgh, and I'll always like every time I hear the word Pittsburgh, I think about it, and I was just so sick of after party after after party after after party, which at first was all I ever wanted for fun, and I just thought, okay, I just need to feel good, and I had a sports background, so I was like, I'll try something sporty tonight, and the guys went out, and I went to the hotel gym in Pittsburgh, and I remember just running on the treadmill until I felt something, and that was my first little step into it. And I never would have thought it would have been the thing that, I mean, I thought I was going to be a little boy band kid forever. I never thought it would be here we are and this is my whole world now. But it's just that first little bit of momentum. It's crazy what it can turn into.
It's all one person needs is just
Hmm.
one little dopamine hit of what it can make you feel like, and you get hooked.
Yeah.
I know. I have a question for you quickly, Cody. So obviously, like, you're in the space now where you're in a private space and you're have a lot of freelance trainers, but do you think, right, just from like your own personal opinion and perspective too, that you think it's essential for good coaches, right? We can kind of air quote what a good coach would actually entail and what they would actually encompass, but needs some commercial experience to do well on their own? Or do you think that trainers can just go independent right off the bat and see success still? What are your thoughts around that? Because I know like that's probably a question you get constantly.
Yes and no. I truly think it's the person. If they have I don't want to keep saying entrepreneurial drive, but if it's someone who is like, hey, you know what? I'm in it to put the work. I know it's going to be hard in the beginning. And I do make that clear to these newer trainers, even ones that are experienced. If you can establish yourself as, okay, it's going to be hard, but I know what my end goal is, then you can be successful starting as a private trainer without any experience. If you're someone who is on the fence, go corporate. And I simply say that because you either have to be 100% in, or go get a feel what corporate is like. And I'll never say anything bad about, a good life or corporate gyms. And it is a great stepping stone for a lot of trainers. And sometimes it's what they need to be like, okay, yeah, you know what? I do want to run my own business. I don't want to stay in the corporate aspect, but at least they can see it, see how things are ran, kind of on a business element. But that's another tough part is when someone goes from corporate to private, is they don't have an understanding on how to run a business and the A to Z's you need to put in place for that. So I do think it comes down to the person, their mindset, and their drive on where they want to get to. Lots of great trainers are at corporate gyms, but they just love the fact that they can get set up with, a client that walks in off the street. They meet them, build a relationship. They might last 3 months and they get a new one. And they're totally fine with that. But if you want to create your own brand and your own business, I do think it comes down to that person individually.
Yeah. And like coming from World Health was my first. I was very lucky to intern at a one-off kind of spot like the Vault
Yeah.
down in
Yeah.
California, and it's great. I tasted that first because I always wanted to get back to that kind of spot. But when I came back to Canada and went to World Health, I I knew it was a stepping stone. I wasn't sure what I wanted in that sense, but what I did get from that is, like we were saying, like I thought training was like, okay, meet me in the park and give me $20 and we'll like run around a little bit, you know? I'll just motivate them. I didn't understand all those business systems in there. And even the consults. I remember thinking like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna have to, I think a lot of trainers don't realize they have to sell.
No.
And that is, I couldn't, like, a lot of people say really, believe me, like kindness and compassion is all I care about. But like, I've heard a lot of new trainers talk about I really didn't understand that there was such a big sales aspect to this, or they have like a negative association with wanting to sell. And I say like that goes exactly to what you say with that confidence thing, right? Like if you truly believe that you're a great trainer and what you're doing, you'll ask any price for it. And I think a lot of people don't just realize that at the start, what a big part of it is. And those big box gyms, as much as it is, they'll tell you about like Think and Grow Rich, and like that's great. It's probably like the Bible of the books out there, but I learned the system of the consult that I probably still run to this day, like the movement screens, and it's good to be around other people and chat around them before you go private too. But I wish more trainers or even like certifying bodies talked about like, hey, like you better be a good salesman too. And you're never going to be replaced by a robot if you're a good salesman
No.
too.
And I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because I have told everybody that is yes, you're a personal trainer, but truly you are a salesperson. And if you can grasp the fact that sales is what is going to drive your business, then you will be successful. If you have a hard time asking somebody for some type of service, then it's going to be very hard for you, especially in the beginning. And that comes down to any profession, but especially as a trainer. We are glorified salespeople who just provide personal training. And that is things, as newer.
You're good.
Sorry.
You're good. Yeah. Yeah. You're good.
That I find is one thing that if you can wrap your head on the fact that you are a salesperson, then it does help relieve some stress, because you're right. Those consults, if you can't close a consult, you're not going to get a client, and so I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a huge, huge, huge thing that once you get good at consults, hey, you're golden.
Going back to your story, I really want to give a lot of time to talk about or what you can share and stuff with the new space. But just going back to your story too, I'm always a big fan of the parts in like the Rocky movies where it's the training scene or the little bit of doubt creeps in. You don't have to get specific if you don't like to, but just maybe let's chat more about some of those times where it was like, oh my God, have I made the right decision here? And just what almost like a dark night of the soul, and just different things maybe you cultivated or resources you used to really like power through any of that self-doubt.
For me, and I've always been a guy that I hold emotions in and I try to do everything on my own. I'm sure both of you have seen that in your years here. I'm trying to get better at opening that up. But in the beginning, going from having that safety net and not really having to worry about, bills or what's coming next. And my wife, Jess, at the time, we were dating, and then, we got engaged, and then more bills come on. Honestly, it was a financial worry, and just being like, and not having help, because there was some friction with me leaving the family, and really there was no communication for close to a year. And it was very hard for me. Her family was very supportive, but in the end, it was always, it wasn't even paycheck to paycheck. It was truly scraping by. And I had to really come up with ways to be like, you know what, that like, I want more. And especially going from, these cool trips that I would go on with, my family at those times, even through the company, I'd go on golf trips and things like that, to basically, having to go buy my first Honda, and it was a big eye opener for me, and I'm glad it happened. I truly am. I think that's what ignited me though, was just the scarcity and the nervousness of, I don't know what's going to happen in the next month. And always the creepiness in my head coming back that did I make the right decision? Um, but going back to that confidence aspect, I flipped a switch and I just kind of didn't give myself a choice. And my main goal just at Good Life was I would try to sell as much as I possibly could. And it paid off, based on the commissions there. And that was my main goal. I didn't leave that gym until I would sell 20 or $30,000 in personal training a month. And I would make sure, and we would have leaderboards from all the other Good Lives. And if I left that day and my name wasn't at the top, I would stay and make calls. And that's kind of where it all started. I didn't really reach out to anybody, um, which I do highly recommend for everybody is have a support group, have people you can talk to, because that does go a long way. But that was kind of for me, the way I dealt with it was a lot of self um, acceptance in the fact of where I'm at and where I need to get to, and you're the sole person who's going to get you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of Rob and I hear it a lot too, and I think it's probably like in every conversation we have with people, you kind of have to have like a proverbial rock bottom moment.
Right.
And you look at like any good movie or any good show, right? Like you look at the protagonists, like they always have to face some hardship in their journey. You look at the classic hero's journey, there's always going to be a bottom point before you have the rise or the climb. And I think like every person needs to experience whatever their rock bottom is, to get a bit of a reality check where it's like, okay, yeah, shit, my life needs to change. And then that gives you like the actual drive to change, because when you're not quite there, I don't think there's the same level of urgency, right? You could just kind of like continue to coast and like see what happens, and then something happens where you have to actually change your life, right?
100%. And even to this day, I'm not where I want to be. And I always am trying to work towards growing something and becoming better. And it does all stem from knowing, okay, I never want to go back to this position. I know there's going to be things that come up that could bring you back to rock bottom, mentally, but it's things that I now know, and I have a very high standard for, you know, not only everybody here, but where we are going with the vault is I won't stop until we get to that point. And even when we get to that point, then I'm going to try to want something more. And that's something that um, I've always been like that. I never have been like, you know what? Yeah, like you did good. People think I should, just like your guys' business, some, I don't know if that's the same for you, but for me, it's also a downfall, not seeing achievements that all of us have made. But for me, it's one thing that I do struggle with is it's never at a point where I feel satisfied. And that's now where we are transitioning into a new gym.
Yeah. But it don't you could really make the case, well, not you could make the case, this is the truth, is that each next step is bigger than the last.
Correct. Yes.
So it's not some just like cycle of like, oh, I'll never be satisfied. It's like, no, I'm taking leaps and bounds and building this dream. And let's get into that new spot. Bryce and I both know a lot about the new spot, but for
Yep.
people listening, there's a lot of exciting things about this. So another thing I think we could talk about too with it is that so many people don't get their dreams realized, or they get too scared to do it, or they don't understand how that, patience is a virtue, or how, there's examples in nature. If you like, I heard an incredible one in a book where if you're planting a seed, why would you dig it up every day to look at it to see if it's growing? You have to plant it, grow it, and, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So when did the first little inkling of this next step come in? And let's go from there to what this is going to be about, this new space.
It would have been September of last year.
Of course, I knew you would. The exact time. Yeah.
September of last year. And it's funny how things circle back. It's actually, my grandfather who owns the construction company, he simply just asked one question: do you ever want to expand? And I had zero intention of expanding. I actually had, thoughts about, do I want to do the gym anymore? Because I miss being just a trainer so much and dealing with a lot of headaches of owning the gym and being a trainer. And that crept into my mind. But he simply said, um, the construction company is purchasing this building. Would you be interested in expanding? And I said, I'd have to think about it. And I thought about it for 24 hours. And I called them the next day and I said, yeah, I do. And it started as, okay, how much space do you need? I said, well, maybe double what I have now would be good. I don't want to bite too much off. So we kind of looked at, the space he has, and then so it was about 6,000 square feet that I would need. And then I really got into thinking, and then I said, okay, like if I'm going to do this, is adding double really going to benefit going public? And then it got to 8,000. And now we're at just under 12,000 total. Now those are final numbers. It's not changing anymore now, because of everything I wanted to offer in this gym. And I don't get excited very often, but I truly am excited for this gym. And it's still not my dream because it's not open yet. And I still want people to be in it for me to see it come to fruition. But I haven't been this excited for something in a long time, regardless of the roadblocks and the headaches it's created in getting to the spot we're at now. But Saturday's anniversary event was very humbling in seeing how many people were kind of blown away by our community. And majority of the people here weren't clients, weren't there was a good amount of trainers. It was just new faces. And people were like, this location it's cool to be in here. From the vendors to everybody was there. And that's really what I want this new gym to be about. Now, obviously, I always think about, even going back to this gym, how do you separate a niche in terms of the fitness world? Like we see gyms, close, get shut down. I didn't want to be just another public gym. And that's why I'm going the route of a luxury public gym. It's not going to be the biggest gym. 12,000 square feet isn't small, but it's not a 70,000 square foot Movati. But what it is going to offer and bring is, not only are we adding the same type of equipment we have here, but a lot more of it, but everything is going to be in-house.
Yeah.
Plus more in-house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I knew you left it hanging and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
let's
I
just
was
let that
thinking-
breathe a little longer. And now it's hit him.
so I have gone into, now we want to create a shake bar and a community bar. That transitions, the trainer room is going to have TVs and couches in it, a lot bigger than the one we have now. Because I want a space still, as much as we're going public, the trainers, everyone is like family to me. And so that room is now triple the size. We're going to have group fitness element in there. We're having a wellness component in the upper floor where we're going to have acupuncture, chiropractor, massage therapist, and a Botox clinic. Now, all of these things are elevated experiences that most gyms don't have right now. And going into that elevated experience, I'm creating a thermal lounge. We're going to have 2 cold plunges in there, red light therapy, infrared sauna, Normatec pads, hyper ice gear. So just literally, when somebody goes to a gym, they can get everything from A to Z. Both the change rooms are on a luxury element with dry saunas in both for access for both change rooms. And then the main floor is all cardio, all equipment. And so, you walk in, it's a 2-floored mezzanine is upstairs where the change rooms, the cardio, and all the wellness components are going to be. And the main floor is that community shake bar, and then just the gym. And it's as the renderings have been shown, something that just there isn't like that in the city. There's some gyms can say they're luxury, and not going to point them out, but when you go into them, they're not. And when I want people to walk into this one, I want them to be like, okay, this is a nice gym. And I don't feel overwhelmed by how big it is. I feel cozy in a sense that I want to be in this gym long term. I'm not going to be an owner who wants 5,000 members and 70 to 80% are inactive. If we have 800 members, I want every single one of those members to be active and always in there. And that's where I'm going for with this gym.
It's an exciting thing. It's admirable to watch how like the whole thing has come together, and it's starting to be just around the gym as this transition is happening too. Now, if you could go back to that day, and I can tell there's like obviously it's an emotional moment too of with the suit fitting like that. I even felt that with you telling the story, and I'm looking at a laptop screen right now, so it's high emotional attachment to it. What would this version of yourself tell that kid back then as a motivation speech?
As a motivation speech,
Yeah.
change in life is scary for anybody. But if you aren't, I want to say not scared, if you don't have a sense of fear in what you're going to go into, then ask yourself, is it worth it? Because I think for people when they're pursuing anything, whether it's just change physically, or they're going into a business venture, or they're going to ask somebody to marry them, if there isn't some sense of fear in your gut, not in a bad way, then I don't think it's a move that you should make. Whereas if you have some fear in you, I find that's what drives people and builds the excitement and going into a new venture that can create that sense of accomplishment once you get there. But in the beginning, give you feelings you never had before. And for me, it's, yeah, to this day, I'm still scared shitless for this new gym, but it's a good scared shitless, if that makes sense. It's something that, hey, I'm going to deal with it as things go, but it's the excitement that builds up to it. Fear is still there because it's not, I can't guarantee 800 members or even 400 members or 1,200 members. All I know is that I just want to keep growing and moving forward and creating that element of excitement for everybody to be a part of it, but if I were to give, a motivational speech, is like, if you're going to go into something and there is a sense of fear, it's the right move.
Well said, man.
Yeah, I think it's almost like a perfect place to end it because, like, I think we touched upon some really important things today, and it was really great to chat more about your personal journey too. Like what got you actually started in fitness, and that monumental moment of that suit fitting. Because I think we always need to. A lot of us even need to have that one moment too that really just sticks, right? But makes you. It's like it hits a certain pain point that makes you just really want to change, though. And if you didn't have that moment, you probably wouldn't be here now, where you're about to walk into a new space. So, for people that want to stay up to date with the new space, they want to follow you and all that stuff, where can they do so?
The Vault's Instagram page, we have a link in there that's taking everybody to a launch site that we've created. The complete website isn't done yet. You can go to the link and enter your details in there, and we will fully do construction updates. We'll do equipment sneak peeks, everything like that, alongside of the Instagram page as well. So for now, go get on that link on the Vaults page. It'll take you to the launch page, and that's where you can stay up to date to everything, as well as our Instagram page.
Sweet. And then let's throw your personal one in there too, if they want to follow you.
Yeah, Gonek Fitness is my personal one. I basically just share everything vault-wise as well on there. But I've always loved doing one-on-one training, so that's never changed. So I do still love to put client stuff on there, but for my personal stuff, it's just Gonek Fitness. And then the Vaults is the one where you can stay up to date with everything current and upcoming in the new gym.
Awesome. Thanks, Cody.
Perfect. Thanks, gents. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.